Hello everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Please subscribe, join the channel, follow Rebec on Instagram and Twitter. Hit the thumbs up. It recommends the channel to more people. Thank you, Shayna. I love you. Hi guys, how you all doing? I want to ask, are there any newbies here? They say, I'm new, like from people, because the video I made for the British people got a lot of views. So that's kind of exciting. So I wanted I want to know if anyone here is new. So let me guys know. Thus far, I see some of my good old, like the Darth Orange. What a wild time to be alive. Why is it a wild time to be alive, though? Oh, you're a newbie? Welcome, welcome. All right. Book Mouse is saying, are you joking? Who is joking? I want to know who's joking. You guys, what's going on? Where are you? Yeah, people, like and subscribe. Hello, hello. Hello, Jopi, shalom. Here, let me... Alright. Let's start, y'all. No, I'm just kidding, I think you're my first... Like, okay, I don't know if it's you, but there is the orange makes me think it's you. Are you the first person who signed up as a member in my channel? Can it be you? I'm curious. Is it you, orange person? I mean, I made this video where I talked to a message to the Brits that apparently I got like 2 comments out of the sea of comments there. Not that I read all of them, but I saw 2 people saying that, would you, that it's apparently it's an abbreviation and therefore it's offensive. And they wanted to know if I would call other nations but that way. And specifically somebody brought Pakistani. And I was like, yeah, of course, I would say Pakis and Palis. And also I think that the word Jew is abbreviation, to be honest. But I don't know but there isn't an abbreviation for an Israeli. It's too hard to abbreviate it, I think. Anyway. Here, Kishra Manikam, please update us about Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas situation now that Yahya is officially their leader. I'll try. I don't know, like, it's just, yeah, Demon King, that's what Yahya Sinwar is, like, this dude is awful. He was writing, hello all, yesterday Iran IS executed a young Kurdish man, Reza Resai, who was accused of killing an Islamist member during the Women Life Freedom protest. He refused it. Oh well. Good old Middle East, now that the Middle East went global. I don't know how you guys feel about it, since it's now everywhere now. And now that, we have the Middle East in Britain, we have the Middle East in Europe, how about, I feel like maybe me as an old-timer Middle Eastern person, can give you guys some tips. Also, I want to talk about what happened on October 7th, and I'm just thinking where to start because there is so much. So I actually wrote myself, okay, I think I'll start with a little bit of a story. And it's gonna be a story from around the time of the Syrian civil war. I think when it was, when the refugees started coming to Europe. So I used to do couch surfing a lot of, and I had people coming over, and I was doing couch surfing at other people's places. And I want to talk about a German couple that I have at my place in Haifa that came over. So what's special about those two, that couple, is that they were volunteering at a refugee center. So they were working with refugees. They were helping them out, you know, during the height of what was going on with, you know, Syria and things like that. But here's the thing. And for those who are wondering, like, what did I say when I heard? I started asking them questions. Question one was, okay, guys, so what is the percentage of children, women, and can you break down the demographics of this refugee camp? And they were like, yeah, it's mostly men. And I was like, interesting. So it's mostly young military-aged men. And then I started asking them, okay, so, and I didn't say anything, right? I didn't want to expose what I think about their willingness to be serving these kind of people. I just thought, you know, I'll come open-minded and I'll just ask questions. This cute German couple that was helping, and they were at my place in Haifa, that was. I'll ask him questions just to hear what it's like, what it's really like. So I see some comments about talking about Bangladesh. 1 second, I will get there. It's in my list because this is part of, but I want to start there because I want to talk about certain type of mentality, which is really, I think, is the key to understand what happened on October 7th and what's happening right now all over the world. Because I was sitting there like seemingly smart, educated people who were volunteering with those refugees, and I asked them questions, right? So the first thing was, okay, demographics. So like, yeah, it's mostly military-aged men that are in those refugee camps. Which even there, I was like, don't you guys think that it should be like if we are talking about refugees, it doesn't make sense that there would be more women and children there than there are military-aged men. Okay, fine. I'm no judgment. I was like, I'm not gonna judge this couple. I'll continue asking questions. So tell me, like, how do they behave? And they started telling me all kind of atrocities about how they're acting and how they're behaving. And I was like, okay, do you feel like it's getting any better? And they're like, not really. I was like, so why are you guys helping them? Why are you welcoming them? And like, because they're refugees, they need help. And I was like, can't you see where it's going? And the German couple looked at me, blinked twice, slowly. And I was like, what are you trying to say? I'm just saying, like, that it's gonna turn on you, you know, it's gonna be problematic for Germany to have people with those moral standards. And I was like, no, we're not racist like that. We don't think that way. No, but I was like, but it's mostly men. It doesn't make sense. And they're behaving like their behavior is abhorrent. And it doesn't get better. What do you expect to happen? What do you think will happen long term? We're not racist, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. Japster, did the couple inspire you to make the debate? No, but thank you for you. No, I just remember this. I just thought, like, how do I start? Like, the thing is that there are people out there that they see, like, you cannot be more involved, like, more there than seeing, like, because they're telling me what they were doing for the couple of women that were in that refugee camp, what they were going through by the majority men that were there, right? I was like, you guys, like, you don't see the problem. You don't see it. And like, no matter like how, like they have all the facts right in front of them. They have everything, and yet they cannot understand where it's going. They just cannot. And yeah, so that's the thing is like, and now I want to talk about subject I think that I'll start with. Denying the denial of barbarism that is happening in the world. So the thing is that even now, like, let me, so, okay, so let me think where to start. I should start with the fact that now on YouTube, there is a good chance, first of all, I don't even want to tell you everything that I know happened, because just describing it is not even showing photos, just describing it, it's going to be awful. Second, all my lives usually get demonetized anyway, but still, like, you know, this is my job, right? I'm a YouTuber, and I cannot give you real reports of what's happening in real life because of censorship. And then, even if I do tell you, there is this deep ingrained denial of like people are not willing to believe how fast people turn, and that people are that way. Like they would not. I was sitting with a friend from Bangalore, and he said like, yeah, I have my Muslim friends, and I was like, you know what? Like I know I have India is huge, right? I know. I was like, do you know what and that's guys before that's the things with Bangladesh started. And I told him, okay, so your Muslim neighbors in Bangalore, do you not, like, as far as I'm concerned, I see them as sleeping cells. If there is an external force that comes tells them that if they see themselves as Muslims, they have to cooperate with the Ummah, would they cooperate with the Ummah or not? So this is the definition. Like you think that those your neighbors that you have are good neighbors, that they would never hurt anyone. But the thing is, like, what happens if there is some external force and suddenly, like, the question of that, are they part of the Ummah or not, will pop up. Like, how would they behave? Would they stop calling themselves Muslims? Or would they join the Muslim force? And I was like, go ask them that before you are so sure that your neighbors are not going to turn on you. Because those things happen. Like there is a story, like stories like, during World War II, where a Jewish woman said how her friend, her neighbor, Ukrainian woman that was her neighbor, that she was friends with, that she had a casual talk with the same morning. At night, when they decided to go against the Jews, she went and threw her baby daughter out of the window. Her neighbor friend that she had a casual talk with that same morning threw her baby out of the window. This is what we have to understand about humanity, how fast it happens, and that it can always happen. And this is what happens when you have people who believe in certain ideologies. Once they believe in it, somebody says, hey, I believe in that and that. Like, for example, believing in certain ideologies like Islam. Then you don't know what they're gonna do when the Ummah calls. You don't know that because this is their ideology. If they say this is what they believe in, that's a potentially, like, you can have a good morning conversation with them, and then the same night they're gonna throw out your baby out of the window. And just ask people in Bangladesh now what is happening to them. Just ask the families that were hosting, that ended up being eliminated by the people that worked for them for 10, 20 years, that they thought were their family members, that they hosted in the every holiday, that they let into their house and ended up being the ones that were doing all the job. Just the thing is that, and then the other thing is like the other thing is that people are in denial is not only that how people switch, how they behave when they're ideologically possessed, right? If they believe in a certain ideology, you need to understand like how dangerous that is, because because this is an opportunistic thing, right? Like you will not be dangerous until you have the opportunity to do so without getting punished for it. Neuralic troops. Let me see. Thank you for. By the way, people, if you guys want to support me, super chats really happen. I also have a buy me coffee link below. I really, really need your support to keep this channel afloat. It's not easy at all. So yeah, especially when I want to talk about things that get censored and the Uralic type. This is why Hungary closed its borders since 2015 to illegals. The government asked the people if they want to open borders or not. Majority voted no. Those who crossed caused million in property damage. Yeah, that's smart. Like, do not ever forget that. Like this manipulation. Like, oh, look at us, we're so miserable. It's like, yeah, where are your women? Where are your women? Where are your children? Another story I want to tell. Yeah, that is, I think, is another indication. Like, okay, let's talk about Central Asian Muslims that are not as talked about. For example, here's like fun stories, just a fun story. Before I go to Armenia and Abkhazia. You know what was the tactic that the Central Asians employed when they were fighting against the Russians, when the Russians were conquering them? So what they would do is that the men would flee and they would leave behind their women and children. Because they know, like if it was other Muslims, they know that like they would just go and slaughter those children and women. But since they were fighting against people that were a bit more civilized, I was like, they just were like, it's gonna slow them down, because they were like, they came to conquer, they found all the women and kids, and they got slowed down by that, which is incredible. Because I was like, okay, what do we do now? Because we're supposed to take care of them so they won't and it slowed them down, which is like a tactic that only you have to have a certain culture, and this is the Central Asia, okay, Central Asia tactic, or how did they slowed the Russians down? They just left their children and women and ran. And it's like, deal with those people. That would slow you down. Amazing. So let's see if there is anything. Okay. So that was just fun. But the thing is that the barbarism of those cultures are being denied. I feel like it's being denied. I don't know. It's not like it's. I feel like it's those things are not being taught, right? Like for example, the way the Armenian Holocaust happened, the way they slaughtered. So the Germans, they built a system. They did it systematically. They built a factory. annihilation factory with the Armenians, by the way, that were mostly killed by Arabs and, you know, I think Kurds. They did it by hand with their bare hands, like every person, like million people, bare hands. The worst way you can emit for a million people. And the same with the Assyrians, the same with like Yazidis, the same everywhere. And it just that barbarism. The thing is that people who didn't see it or never saw it, and the more I got to speak with an audience that was like Western, that I understood that a lot of people grew up without ever hearing or seeing violence, or like how barbaric humans can be, have really hard time imagining that. And the thing is that this is not a minority in the middle. It's not a minority in those areas. It's not a minority. It's the majority that are like that. It's not a minority in any way, like not really. If 34% of women of mothers in the West Bank abuse their children, it might be less than half, but that's not a minority. That's not insignificant. That's deeply ingrained in the cultures here in the Middle East and Central Asia and places like that. So we see the same thing happening everywhere. So Bangladesh, October, I had 2 days ago, I went to an IDF briefing, and I also saw more footage and more videos and more things that happened on October 7th. And I can tell you stories that my grandpa, for example, told me about things that the people did from Abkhazia to Georgians. By the way, my grandpa says but my dad also says that the Georgians also did similar things. And of course, even like, like me, I made this video about the Nukhba, the first person survivor from the Nova Festival who came out and told his story to the public about how he was raped, because the vast majority of the rape cases did not survive at all. And I remember it's even before he came out, I was talking to people and I told, listen, they raped men. And even Frank is like, he wouldn't believe me. I was like, and then I asked him, are you just telling me that in Nigeria, when they're having those raids, that they don't target men as well? And he's like, yeah, I think they do. So and I was like, well, so what makes you think that here would be different, that they wouldn't target men? And also I now changed the title because people kept asking, or like, are you confused, or like, do you mean woman? Do you mean woman? Do you mean her? Why are you using male pronouns when you're supposed to be? I was like, no, because it was a man, and there were many men that were targeted and raped, gang raped on October 7th. So Micah saying, of course they rape them as well. It's what they do. Yes, it's what they do. And they do the same in Iran. The Iranians, then, when they're telling the way they're clearing, the way they took care of the protests, right? They said there were mass rapes of men and women. And it's funny to me, like, how many people are like, men, they did it to men. Like, yes, 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 yes. And believe me, if you think that is unimaginable to be raping men, then believe me, that's the list of like your imagination is very lacking, very lacking, very lacking indeed. And I was like, why don't you know what barbarism is? Why don't you know what savagery is? Like, like, why is it not? Why is it being like the world is being like those things are being censored? And and only now I think people are starting to hear about those things, but those I was like, so people are asking, like, was I surprised when October 7th happened? What happened on October? I wasn't surprised. I know the neighbors. I know what they do. I was like, you're right. Let me see. Central Asians are Muslims, but they're more secular and liberalized and aren't even serious about Islam. Many there openly drink and do stuff that goes against Islam. In Kazakhstan, Islamic parties are banned. Yes, that's true. But Central Asia is also Pakistan and Afghanistan and Tajikistan. It's not just Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. Like there is a lot of Central Asia, and also it is there is it depends on the tribe, on the area, and things like that. I was wait. I want to see. Shayna, I'm glad you went. The others said it was hard to get the images out of your mind. Please take care of yourself. Thank you. So, what was actually to me, Leviticus, yeah, Moshe Hassan Yusuf had spoken publicly about rape of males. Yes. There's a lot of rape of males as well. So to me, it's like, do you know what? Like, there is a whole book, like the Rodefa Fifonim about Afghanistan, where I think that there is a story there where the man where he's getting like a boy is getting raped. Like, yeah, those things happen and they're not rare in those societies. Like the barbarism on these societies are incredible. How much was the biggest donation here so far? $100. My God. That's a funny question. $100, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your donation. So, and this is, it's not that's so this so the thing is like this is one, right? People don't understand barbarism and also this lie that was perpetuated that it's a minority situation. It's not a minority. The barbarism is way more barbaric than than most people, a lot of people in the West can even imagine. Oh, definitely, like, if people keep asking me if I'm not confused if it's a him or a her, that means that you guys are very naive about how barbaric can barbarism be. Yeah. So that's one. So there is this one thing. So how October 7th happened. So we have this nice I feel like I should be having like a like a board so I can write. I can show you guys. I wrote it like, I don't know if it will be, but it's all in Hebrew. Like all the what happened on October 7th. So one thing, and when I watched some of the footage, for example, things that really, I was like, I just asked myself why. Like, for example, like the way they tortured the Thai workers. the foreign workers, people that are clearly not Israeli. Okay, don't have Israeli citizenship, because the Israelis got all the Israelis got the same treatment. Okay, Muslims, Jews, Christians, like we all got the same treatment. But the way, the thing is that uh, the place, one of the places they had more time was they found like a shack, like the shack. It's not a shack, like the house where there were Thai workers were residing, and the things that like, and I was like looking at it, I was like, why, what did they ever do to you? Why? Like why? Like this is like, one thing is like, understand, like you hate Jews so much, you hate Israelis so much because you've been brainwashed. They have like books for little kids that show them how to cut throats. I get it. Like they learn how to do it since childhood. They have little, like, really, like, you read about, like, oh, do you have a worm that eats leaves? They have how to cut people's throats kind of books. So, and I was like, okay, fine. So you hate Jews because the Jews did this and that, whatever. And you hate the Muslims and the Israelis in general. And by the way, they also killed Arabs that were from the West Bank as well, not just Israeli Arabs. Fine. Because, like, they are even worse because they are traitors. I get it. But the Thai workers, I get it, they're infidels. So they're infidels. But god damn it, that's not hate, that's just plain, that's like plain. Why? Like, I was like looking, like, why? What did the Thai workers ever do to you? Nothing. And yet, like, the way, what they did to their bodies, I cannot even describe. Shayna, question. Scott asked about IDF supposedly raping Palestinians reported by Pallywood. Okay, so I want to say something, okay? When I use the word rape, I mean like the intimate kind of rape, okay? So the way Nukhba raped this man, it was the classic style. But the suspicion is that the IDF raping, it's not that is by sticking sticks, okay? Not like actually pulling out their own stick to do that. They used an foreign inanimate object that's the suspicion. Whether it happened or true, it's under investigation. But yeah, I don't know. I know it's, but, and also, like, yes, the thing is, there was a lot of rage about the Nukhba kept harassing people even inside jail, and I think some soldiers got really mad with them. But it's under investigation, and it's unclear what happened there yet. But it's not rape the way they Nukhba did it. When they raped men and women, they did it like with their own sticks, guys. You know what I'm saying? Seb Oz, Thai are not considered people of the book. Yeah. Therefore, they do. By the way, if you guys want to see things that are really brutal, that I think you can read relatively, like, look what they did to the Hindus. Like they skinned them alive, and then others boiled them. There are a lot of things that they did, like these Muslims did too. We know what you're saying. Okay. So like the really like, but here's the thing is like, as like we were there, like did we expect anything? Was there anyone that was surprised? No. That's their culture. That's what they do. That's what they do to each other. That's what they do in general. And when they were let loose, they went ham, ham, like absolutely batshit, like awful. And they did it to babies too. And the thing is that they the families, like they didn't release all the names. Like not everybody wanted their like especially when it comes to children and babies, like not everybody wanted the names of the babies, for example, or children to be published. So it's not all out there, but yeah. So here's mhm. Much to the reason violence manifests itself in the form of rape is because Muslim men have a need to be hypermasculine, so they aim to emasculate other men as for women, it's a whole purity culture. True. I also talked about like it's rape to humiliate kind of culture that I also touched on it on my Nukhba rape video. Miss Shayna. Just wanted to know how Israeli economy is doing. It's doing okay. It's doing fine. The Uralic tribes. What's happening in the UK is similar to events in 1989 when the Eastern Bloc revolted against communism. In these cases, people eventually will snap. I'm not sure what do you mean by that, to be honest, but like with the bringing down the wall in Germany and things like that. Maybe I don't know, but thank you for your support. You guys learn from the Uralic tribes. Anyway, okay, so number one, I kind of wish I could write it down somehow somewhere. Oh well, I'll figure out next time. So number one is the denial of barbarism. And it's super relevant because the thing that it brings, this denial of barbarism, is the censorship as well, and the lack of education. Yeah. And what it does is that places that haven't experienced and are not familiar with the culture do not understand, to say the least, and open their gates to people who would eventually are either sleeping cells or are active cells. Basically, that's the two options. So, okay. And okay, so this is the basic premise, like this is the culture we're talking about when it comes to Gaza and the Middle East in general. Somebody is saying, Rebecca, lack of education has nothing to do with it. So what is it? I want to, Western people, let me know. What do you think that is? What is it? Why do people not know what, are not aware of this barbarism, or how would you explain it? And I love it, like, for example, that, you know, that I get these comments, like, writing, like, but who let him in? It's the Jews that, bro, we try to tell you, like, Israelis had been begging, like, saying, listen, listen, you don't understand what you're talking about. You don't understand how barbaric they are. And this is, for me, I want to send them to the video on Lebanon where I always say, like, Israel warned and talked to the Christians in Lebanon. It's like, don't do it, don't do it, don't. But they were like so virtuous and so great, and they were so anti-Semitic. Like they were like, the thing is, like, sometimes, like, the thing with anti-Semitism that's crazy to me is, like, you can be so profoundly anti-Semitic that you are just okay. What? Okay, so after you get rid of all the Jews, do you think the problem will disappear? What would happen? Like, Israel disappears, what would stop all the Muslims from coming to Europe? What would stop it? Nothing would stop it. Israel is helping you by existing. Whatever you are experiencing is like, it's going to be 10 times, 100 times more without Israel there. And then, like in Lebanon, right? It's like the Christians in Lebanon, oh, we're going to accept the Palestinians because we're so much better than those Jews. And then they all died because they got massacred by those Palestinians that they felt so obligated to help to. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I get it. Like, I this culture, this is crazy to me. Like, it's the same. Like, the way the left, the way they are, don't get wrong. Like, right? Those, the woke, they're the Nazis. They just called, they're like all those woke stores, all those leftists. Like, Nazis were socialists. They were socialists. They didn't believe in free market or capitalism or anything like that. They were socialist, real socialist. Okay, so their thinking continued living in the left, in the labor parties, everywhere. Okay, and they smartly, with their hate to Jews, started cooperating with the Islamists because they had the Jews so much. And like, to me, it's amazing. You hate Jews so much that you are actually like weaving your own hanging rope. That kind of anti-Semitism is like, you know, if it wasn't like, if it didn't involve like us being completely exterminated, I was think like, yeah, let's just, like, I want to let's just do an experiment. Let's make all the Jews disappear and let's see what happens. Let's see how it goes from there. Like, I want to see this experiment. I just know that I'm part of the group to get annihilated. So it's kind of annoyingly uncomfortable way of conducting an experiment, but whatever. Yeah. Anyway. Kevin D'Souza, problem is that people can't seem to think more than 100%. Yeah. I was like, okay, let's imagine that the Jews disappeared from the world. Okay, what would change? God damn it, what would change? Except it would be so much easier for Muslims to take over, because it would be. Anyway, the reason I say that, like, this kind of mentality, this kind of thinking led to a cooperation between the world's left, communism, and the left powers but also, like, you know, others. It doesn't have to be that they're leftist per se, but a lot of people don't like the Jews to the point where they are willing to, like, in a sense where I feel like this dislike to the Jews made them be like, made them ignore the threat that is Islam, because it was, you know, It was like because they would have had to cooperate with the Jews 100% in order to, minimize the threat of Islam. And like this is the last thing they wanted to do. So they actually emboldened Islam and gave it power. Just like happened when they fought against communism and things like that in certain places. Um, so so this this creates, okay, so we have, so the thing is that because the media is demonizing the Jews, you can't just demonize the Jews without repainting who the Palestinians are. And you cannot repaint the Palestinians without suppressing what this culture is. And those lies had accumulated and accumulated to the point where the West was like, okay, so when this thing happened, when there started getting like, this Arab Spring happened, after so many years of trying to paint the Islamic world as an unfortunate victim of the tiny state that is called Israel, of course, the people around the world were like, we have to help them, we have to help them, that we have to open the doors. And once you open the doors, because this attempt, because this has been going on for decades, it's not something that happened out of the blue. Okay, this sleepiness, this mindset is like with the Bush family, like with the like what? Islam is a religion of peace. Come on, like they tried to paint everything as if it's like if you solved the Palestinian conflict, as if the whole thing with the Arab world would suddenly go away, the Middle East will become a peaceful utopia, and the only problem is Israel. And after decades of perpetuating this message in so many different ways, and it all stems from like pure anti-Semitism, really, they have made the West believe that you can help these people. Instead of educating and telling them, hey, look what this culture is for what it is, it's like, no, they didn't. They tried to obscure it. And why it's important? Because when Israel ended up having a very, Joe Biden was an asshole all of his life, right? I mean, I know he's not dead, but he's a brain dead, so I'm gonna talk to him in past tense. Yeah. Joe Biden was brain dead, is brain dead now, so, but he was an asshole all of his life. But he made this beautiful speech one time, like in this section, where he said, you know what, when it comes to the Arab-Israeli conflict, the Arabs don't have to do anything, because when it comes to Israel, because the United States is gonna act on behalf of the Arabs against the Israelis. So so the thing, so and by the way, it's the same with the Hindus, right? The same with the Hindus. They're like and Islam, same thing as like this Gandhi person that was like, and the communism that, and the things that happened in and Bangladesh now and everything like that. So so yeah, so That's the thing. And that created a world that Israel couldn't operate properly. So Israel didn't have the ability to go and eliminate, like it's grew to this point where Israel had this wrong perception. So there was two conflicting things, and one thing is that there was this egocentric, like this thing that Israel thought, okay, we can try to give the Palestinians a chance to improve, and if they don't, we can always dismantle them. So this is one egocentric kind of assessment that the security generals had. They were like, okay, we can always go and fix it later, which ended up being false because as time passed by, the less Israel could do. Because even if it was clear, for example, that Hamas was a completely terroristic organization, the resentment and those lies against Israel just grew bigger all those years, right? To the point where even when it comes to Hamas, Israel couldn't do anything. So suddenly Hamas took over Gaza and Israel found itself in a situation where they cannot go and dismantle them because that would mean that the West would open a war against Israel as well. So this is what happened. And even now we can see that after they did what they did on October 7th, and they've sworn that they would do it a million times more, and that they're willing to sacrifice every citizen in Gaza in order to fight the holy war, even so, there is no obvious support for the dismantling of Hamas when it comes to the West. Even so. So even with this, everything that happened, Israel found itself with their hands tied after something that a lot of Israelis said, like, why can't we not say what it was? It was a genocide. Because it was a genocide, it was planned as a genocide. All the documents show that they were targeting civilians, they were targeting people, they were targeting children, they did it on purpose. They had kits to kidnap people, kits with the drugs and the needle, so that they could drug those that they want to kidnap, so they wouldn't resist. They had the Nukhma fight. They had kidnapping kit. So Israel. So this was the thing. Is like these generals that were like, you know what? Let's try, give them a chance to. Let's give up. Let's not escalate it. Let's give them, and then worst case scenario, we can go and fix it. Just to find out that with time, the left got more and more power to the point Israel cannot fight an organization that is just like ISIS, because they built the tunnels using slavery. The people who had to dig these tunnels died during those operations. It's known, and I cannot even start to explain how much the West had. And now what's happening is that thing is they double it down because they try to hide how much damage they had caused and how much they had hidden in order to keep this fake peace alive and keep lying. I suspect they drugged people before raping them too, but I haven't heard anything. No, I think they were just a lot of people. No, they didn't. I don't think they drugged them, but they had people that were holding the legs. So some were holding the legs, and while they yeah. like when it comes to, they wanted people to suffer as much as possible. Let me say it like, there was no, um, so what happened? Okay, so we have this situation of like generals who are like, okay, we'll deal with it later. Let's try have like this kind of denial that was happening in the Israeli left. And at the same time, there was the fact that like Israel really, really couldn't do anything. And even now, where it has like, Iran sent like really hands tied. And then October 7th was way more than that. Because this is just like, this is what I describe right now is like why the Hamas thing happened. Like it was just a time bomb, right? It was a ticking time bomb. It had to happen. And everybody knew this is what's going to happen. But the thing is like how much, by the way, it could have been way worse. They planned way more. And there were thousands upon thousands of invaders that day. So, I mean, I was like, this is Rebec. A new video on YouTube was published. Test case in Gaza can civilize nations defeat barbarism. I'm kind of curious about it. I'll watch it. I'll check it out later. So, and then, so what did Israel do? Right? So Israel was like, okay, our hands are tied. We should at least be able, because the thing is that in reality, no matter how much we die, like so many died in October 7th, and still it wasn't enough for, like, we went to war and everything like that. But behind the scenes, with like you saw the media, you think the media is just like the media is the way it alone, like lying about the way Israel is conducting the war and things like that. This is also partly because this is what the governments and the administrations in the Western countries want. They want to hide the truth. And partially the reason they want to do it and hide the reality is because they also want to hide the fact that they're ruining the West, like, and it's all connected. Jasper, grape eating live stream when? I should get grapes. Okay. And then, okay, so then Israel tried to deal with the threat in a very in a way that made our ability to have the justification to fight Islam even less. One of them is, of course, the creation of the Iron Dome. The fact is that due to those technologies that Israel had developed, even after the crazy missile attack by Iran, Israel didn't have the ability to properly answer Iran. And not because Israel doesn't have the means, but because it was like the West was like, okay, we're gonna help you defend yourself, but that's it. You're not allowed to attack. And those things, like, you know, and this is kind of a situation where if we didn't develop those crazy defense systems that cost a lot of money, then we wouldn't have this this thing where like, oh, you can defend yourself, therefore you cannot attack. And it creates a time bomb. This is creating a time bomb. Another kind of behavior that became very permanent is that Israel is being forced to pass money to Hamas and the PA, Palestinian Authority. It's a combination of trying to bribe silence, just kind of protection money, and also a combination of if, for example, Israel didn't pass the money to the Palestinian authorities because they paid terrorists to conduct terrorist acts against Israel, then the Palestinian Authority would claim that Israel withholding money that belongs to them. Which, by the way, because there are terrorists, and it's all terrorist organizations, nobody in the world would even pass them money, because the people who pass the money can be sued. So how is this money passed? It's passed through the Israeli banks, where the Israeli government is giving the bank in Israel its guarantee that in case of that they're gonna get sued for passing money to terrorist organizations, then Israel would cover it up. Like this situation is caused because let's say that behind the scenes there is a lot of gunpoints from the outside that are direct. Another thing that the outside does is that they pay to every organization that goes against the sovereignty of Israel. So all of the organizations that are like B'Tselem, that were caught, by the way, several times, fabricating data, fabricating stories, making up information. They had got tons of millions of money and millions of dollars from governments like from Germany, from Britain, from Canada, from the US, from all over. All those organizations get money from all those Western governments, even though they lie. They bring soldiers that by bribing them, and then they make up a story. And it's been caught already. It's been caught. They've been caught behind the scenes. They've been caught. There are recordings of soldiers like saying that when they don't know they're being recorded, that what they're saying is not real, but they're getting paid for it. And that's not the only organization. Another organization is like that. Like B'Tselem is completely, and then there are and then what happened on October 7th, that was different, right? Because everything I'm describing until now, that's like the basic everyday kind of situation that we've been living here with for decades now, just gotten worse and worse. What happened recently is that there was also more members that joined, that are the old Israeli elite that felt that their status is being put in danger, and that brought up, of course, the protests that you've been seeing and things like that, that made it even worse. But but I'm gonna get to it in a second. Like I saw that there was change comes from within. Thank you. Good job, Rebecca. Thank you for your donation. All right. So all those organizations that were profoundly anti-Israel were getting, by the way, same with like Haaretz. Who is reading Haaretz? A completely anti-Israel newspaper. Who is reading it? They are being quoted by Nazis all the time. Like it's not. It's 100% funded externally. It's not Israeli. And the thing is that a lot of things that, for example, that what the people do is they don't bring Israelis. They bring people who are completely outside of the Israeli mainstream opinion to represent Israel all the time, by the way, as well. Jarlin, what did you do during your military service? What do I answer that? I served it in the intelligence. Okay, maybe I don't know how much I should get into exactly what I did, but yeah, I did have to do a lot with understanding threats and also like balancing the West and Middle East kind of things as well. And I don't like. Signal intelligence, not signal intelligence, no. Right. So another thing that led to October 7th that was always there and wasn't special. Okay, so I'm gonna mark the year 2023 as special. There was something extra there that wasn't regular, but everything I'm saying now is it's been like that for the last 20, 30, 40 years, and it's only gotten worse. So I so another factor is that not only there was the fact that, okay, so we had the Iron Dome and the defense system during that time. So it, in a sense, it's like it felt like you can deal with it, like you can tolerate it more. We had our hands tied by the West. Literally, there was nothing that could justify Israel taking real action against something like Hamas, which is not different than ISIS. And the third reason is because going to war is not so fun at all, right? So there wasn't motivation for it per se. It's not like we're like, okay, we should go. Like, no, every time we had an operation in Gaza, people were like, okay, let's finish it as fast as we can. And it wasn't like, let's go full in, right? So it wasn't like people were super motivated to get to the hellhole that is called Gaza and trying to fix it. It's like, we just left it. The Hamas took over several months later. We wanted to disengage and we didn't want to deal with it anymore. And it's also like, you know, it's this thing like if we have the Iron Dome also gave the Israelis a feeling that like they had more room to breathe, and like if they don't want to go to like, and took away from the Israelis as well the urgency to go to war and actually take care of the problem that was created. So that is also another. So that's a time bomb situation. We have a combination of a barbaric society, 100% dependent on the West, completely built on Islamic principles. Hamas took over. Israel didn't have the leeway from the West. If Israel had, Israel's experienced a lot of pressures from the West. By the way, a lot of the Israelis think the Israeli peace things that they did didn't come from a fair position in negotiation, right? Every time there was something when it comes to the Arabs, the Americans that were the brokers, they represented the Arab side every time, every single time. They made sure that Israel would lose, and they would basically they represented the Arab side, and they gave an empty promise to the Israelis that if something came to be, if something came to fruition, that they would be there. Empty promises. And of course there was the promise like you have from the Egyptians and from the Lebanese, and nothing that they promised, they were all 100% empty words. And one big reason that the Americans really didn't want Israel to go to Rafah, Rafiah, and Philadelphia is because they didn't want to the Israelis to uncover how much the Egyptians had been passing weapons, American weapons, to the Gazans that America knew about and Egypt knew about. And they tried to cover it up. They didn't want Israel to go there. They didn't want to uncover the fact that Egypt had been doing that, even though there was an American guarantee that Egypt would not go against Israel. So they broke the agreement. So they didn't want Israel, like this whole thing with Rafah, when the whole thing with like, oh no, there is so many refugees there and Israel's gonna, it's all a cover-up story. It was all a cover-up story so that Israel wouldn't be able to uncover the complete cooperation of the Egyptians and through the Egyptians, the Americans, with weaponizing the Gazans. They wanted to hide it, and they had been, in recent years, they've been giving so many weapons. Like the thing is, like the Israelis had to have those agreements also with a promise that they would have the strongest army around, like, right, that the Americans would prioritize the Israeli army so that Israel wouldn't be threatened, so that the Americans would be able to sell the Egyptians their weapons and make money out of it. And that came with the American guarantee that those weapons would not be used against Israel, and that Israel would be more technologically advanced. Things that they are trying to break all the time. So yeah, so this is why you think you see how they use the whole media, the whole world, like, oh, it's gonna be so bad when Israel goes to Rafah. No, of course, military-wise, operation-wise, Israel done an amazing job in Rafah. Civilians didn't get hurt almost at all during Rafah, but the Americans had a lot to hide. And Israel also was in a dilemma when it happened, because the thing is, here's the other thing, that's because the Israelis and the Americans had such a long history of cooperating, a lot of the Israeli generals were educated at Harvard in the United States, which caused certain mental problems, which, do I need to explain, like how mentally ill you come out after studying at Harvard? So imagine our generals going to Harvard and coming out completely mentally ill. Like, I don't know if completely, but somewhat mentally ill, because that's what happens after you study in Harvard, apparently now. Yeah. So they also tried to hide, what the was uncovered in Egypt. They didn't want the media to show it, but eventually it did come out because the soldiers on the ground leaked the information. They started they took photos of the tunnels and they sent it to the media, and the media had. Jax, thank you so much for giving 5 memberships to our watchers here. Yeah, that was fun. So, when the Hamas, when the weapons they had brought, they had brought weapons that were Iranian, North Korean, Chinese, Russian, and American with them. Like they had all those great variety of weaponry. So we had this time bomb creating, when the Egyptians were making, by the way, they make money out of it, of course, from this smuggling. They were smuggling to Gaza, the American, therefore not keeping their promises with Israel. That is an American guarantee, and the Americans didn't want Israel to find the proof for that. So this is why they were so much against Rafah. Nothing else. Everything else was an excuse. They don't. There is another thing. Is don't ever believe that they care about human life. They don't. They rarely do. Rarely do. All those media channels and everything, where's the outrage about what's happening in the Bangladesh? How long was the they don't care. And and then there was the and there are documentaries showing Gazans building tunnels without the Egyptians. They knew, come on, they knew, the Egyptian government knew. Because those were tunnels that you can drive in. And during the fight with ISIS that Israel cooperated, they had claimed that they have taken care of all the smugglers, but they didn't. Smuggling. And also, by the way, there are documents, right? All the UNRWA, you saw this out of 19 UNRWA UNRWA workers that the UN bothered to investigate, 9 of them actually actively participated on October 7th. Out of 19. 9 of them were going, and then you have things this photography competition that a person that participated on October 7th and have taken pictures of Shani Luke's body got the best photography. He got a prize. He got a prize for it. For taking a photo of that. A person who who participated on October 7th. Those, what do you think? Do you think they didn't know ahead of time? So, yeah, only 9 out of 19. Yeah, only 9 out of 19 actively raped. The rest, just keep weapons at their house and wait for a more passive, active kind of situation. Maybe it's 9 out of 19 because it was they made sure that all the participants would be older than a certain age, and that there would be less chances of them be actually participating. But even after they did all those measures, they still found that 9 out of 19 participated. I don't know. Like, I don't trust the UN at all. And then, so yeah, we had a time bomb. So it was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of time because then 2023 happened, and we have a very activist kind of justice system that had passed some awful, stupid. They are above the law. They think they're above democracy because they are just so much better than everyone else, and so forth and so on. So this criminal Aaron Barak passed a law that's called Ilat HaSvirut, which basically means that the judiciary system in Israel is a dictatorship, and the government wanted to change that. So that was an amazing opportunity for those foreign forces to start funding elements in the Israeli government and the Israeli jurisdictional system and the Israeli society and the media. And also there were like people are like that just by themselves that were against the government. And it was like a great opportunity because B'Tselem was actually like, it was great to, B'Tselem was great for outside demonization of Israel, right? Because they made up stories, they paid soldiers to go around and say that they did things that they didn't, right? That it was good money for them, you know. It was like every time, like with B'Tselem, it was like, okay, if this soldier is saying what he did and it's true, why isn't this soldier not in jail? Like, shouldn't we go and put those soldiers in jail? And of course, when Israelis are like, listen, if the soldier did something like that, that goes against the Israeli law, we should judge them and put him in jail. And like suddenly, like apparently everything that they were claiming that they were doing was just a lie, right? But that didn't work inside of Israel. That didn't work inside of Israel. That only worked to demonize Israel outside, like, you know, because of this notion, because of this kind of narrative building where it, you know, it has nothing to do with Islam. It has everything to do with Israel being the bad guy. The Arabs are the victims. Islam is a religion of peace. Everybody who says anything else is wrong. And in this effort to delegitimize Israel, but at the same time, which is so funny, the people were very confused, like why are we helping? Like seriously, all those people who are like, why are we funding Israel? Why are we helping Israel? Why are we joining Israel? Yes, it's amazing to me that the government that is trying to demonize, that goes and talks about how much they are worried about civilians in Rafah if Israel is going, because they're not really worried about it. They're trying to not, you know, to hide some things. It has nothing to do with civilians in Gaza. It's like all those great Americans. Why are they still cooperating with Israel? Why are they still claiming that that they're standing by Israel with all those, like, if they're standing and saying that how much they're worried about Gazan civilians, why are they still funding Israel? It doesn't make sense. And of course, people are like, so why is Israel, like, why people are confused? And I tell you why. Because, like I said, like if all the Jews disappeared, then the problem that you'll have would be tenfold, million-folds greater than what your problems are with the Jews existing. Mike and Ledman, thank you for letting me know I'm not crazy. I knew I was saying a lot of US weaponry. You are not crazy. You are not crazy, Michael, and thank you for your donation. So yeah, so to me it was crazy, like this is like good. No wonder like the American public is so confused, because this is like the gaslighting on a different level, where on one hand you demonize and stand by the people you are demonizing at the same sentence. They're always amazing to me. But yeah, and they're like, now I see like people are like, oh, those stupid neo-Nazis with their, like, why are you finding Israel? It's like, no, this is them. It makes sense. That's the conclusion every normal person would get to if they only listened to American government and presidential speeches. This is the conclusion you have to go to, because if you listen to it during the decades, it doesn't make sense to stand by Israel. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. So they're not stupid. They're just not doing the research. They're just not going beyond the mainstream media and their government. They're not going and reading the, history. They don't study it properly. They don't go beyond that. But if you only go by mainstream media, and then let's say you don't have like high reading comprehension, because studying history is really hard. It's really like conspiracy theories make more sense than you have to have there is the dissonance. You're building a dissonance in the people. Of course, they like those who are not scholarly would have to go to conspiracy theories. That's the only other option, like, right? Because conspiracy theories are easy to understand. They don't require nuances. They are very easy to understand, right? So there is a conspiracy. So the government and the media, they're like, what they're reporting is the truth, but because they are controlled by the evil Zionists and the evil Jews, they are forced to help Israel and give money to Israel, even though they don't want to. So they use their free speech to try to signal the public what's really going on. And then because they are but they try to hide it to satisfy the Jewish overlords that are paying them and stuff like that. And it's like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Why wouldn't it make sense? Like, they're like, what's happening, like, this is what, like, I feel like if you don't go and study history and do the hard work, you have to have an explanation for this weird dissonance, don't you? Like, why? Like, um so anyway, so it makes sense to me. It's like, no, you guys are behaving like, no, you're the ones, like those conspiracy theorists, they're the ones that actually are falling to the tricks that the government is playing on them. They're the ones that are actually falling for it, except like they're falling a bit too hard. So it also makes it makes it hard for the government to act properly, because the truth is that Hezbollah and Iran and all those terroristic organizations and Hamas and everything, they're not only making, they're making money through donations, through Western governments, through UNRWA and Hamas are the same thing. And they are running the other way is like they are running the world's a good percentage of the drug trade, all the drugs and trade in the world, right? And then, but they also have an Islamic agenda, and because they have an Islamic agenda, there is a good chunk of the world's population that are part of the religion of peace that see that as, you have to, even if you have to work with terrorists, it's better to work with terrorists than infidels. And then you just have to go around and buy properties in every country outside of, like, in the West, and make deals with officials in the United States and buy, you know, and buy and buy their whatever you have to buy and give them access to an oiled field in Ukraine, whatever. So so that they would, promote your agenda. But at the same time, if they really do go all the way with it and get rid of Israel, Europe is gone, is doomed. Europe is not organized. Europe is not organized. Look at you, the United Kingdom right now. United Kingdom is not organized to deal with what's going on in the United Kingdom. It's a mess. The militaries of Europe are not there. They're not there. Europe is just completely disorganized. They're not ready for it. And like there is this whole thing that there is no trust in the system. There is no trust, and they're like, it's divided. But yeah, and now like they have to double down. All the elites have to double down with their, it's like try to stop the war as much as possible, because obviously those lies are exploding in their faces, because what did Tony Blair did in the Middle East except collecting money and getting like his future retirement getting taken care of? What was he doing? So yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so if you don't actually go and study history, then it makes sense. Like you have to understand like why is there's this dissonance of like what is coming out of their mouth and the way they are supporting Israel to, just make sure it doesn't collapse. That's the minimum. Like that's what they're like. This is the fine line that they're walking, right? Like they don't want Israel to thrive. They don't care about Israel. They don't care about 1,000, 1,500 Israelis getting butchered in the most horrific way. They don't care about it. This is why they wanted to stop Israel from going to war. Like this is what there was a whole war behind the scenes. Because they don't care, right? This is like, okay, just deal with but there's like, okay, but Israel cannot deal with it. Same with Hezbollah now, right? Like, is there any pressure on Hamas and Hezbollah from the United States to stop being? No, they don't. There is none. On Iran, there is none. There is absolutely nothing. But they cannot. But they cannot let Israel collapse completely, because that would be collapse, because because they know that the Israel is like, this is barbarism of the worst kind, because it's the same with Egyptians, by the way. The Egyptians, like things that happened on October 7th, there are refugees in Sudan that escaped to Egypt and that moved here, and they said, listen, the Egyptians did the same thing to the refugees from Sudan. The same things. And there are like, what, 80, 90, 100 million Egyptians? And the US is using Israel as an excuse to feed Jordan and to feed Egypt. It's an excuse. Because otherwise, how would you explain, like, why is America spoon-feeding those countries? And it's like, we're spoon-feeding those countries because if they collapse and they're definitely not independent, they cannot sustain themselves. Those barbarians are gonna come to Europe and slaughter and rape everyone, every single one of them, the European people. So that's the reality. And Israel is a very comfortable excuse Like, why support? Because Jordan helps us with our like friendship with Israel, and we love Israel because we're good Christians when we believe that this is God's plan. And wow, this is the most comfortable excuse ever created by thank you God for thank you God for writing like and passing down the Old Testament and the New Testament, because otherwise literally you couldn't not like you have this amazing balance where it's like, why do we, because of Christianity, even though like the Jews are so horrible and terrible and like they are at fault with everything, we can like when we so we have to fuck them. We cannot completely fuck them to annihilation even though they deserve it, because of, it's against God. No, and then so we have to have this, we have this cooperation with Egypt and Jordan and everything like that. And it's not at all because that if we don't feed those countries, that, and if Israel ceases to exist, all those barbarians are gonna come to Europe and kill you and slaughter you. No, not at all because of that. And now the UK, even though like, with those Asian men, right? It's like feeling just a gist of it, just a little bit of it. And they don't have the tools to deal with it. They don't. They're being gaslighted. They're being gaslighted. Like because the West had built this false narrative for decades now. And just like the Lebanon got fucked because of it, because they were so anti-Semitic. They were so anti-Semitic that they wanted to say to Israel, hey, look how amazingly amazing we are. And we're going to take care of this many beautiful Palestinian Arabs. Look at us. Just to get like slaughtered by them. It's the same thing happening. The same thing. So, and this the thing is like that is really needed to understand, like the resentment and the hate towards Jews is first and foremost in the elites, not in the public, not your everyday like farmer person. Even in Russia, right? If the pogroms that happened and the Ukrainian woman that threw a baby out of the window, that was built up in decades by the Russian elites, by the Tsar. It took decades to make the Ukrainians so anti-Semitic, the everyday people. It took decades. That was from the elites. Those things came from above, not from the bottom. They came from above. When it comes to Islam, it's right, like there is like, and also the same, like there is like also like, inherited anti-Semitism. But there is one thing like, there's like, the thing was like, there's different like kinds of like the levels of anti-Semitism. And when it comes to Islam, this anti-Semitism and barbarism is ingrained to the culture, but it's so ingrained that they are completely barbaric towards everybody, everyone. That's just who they are. Brandon left on, what if Israel kept its 1973 borders? Like with the, you mean kept the Sinai, and would have been better, But, for that, like, that was, by the way, by a real international law, that's what Israel should have been allowed to do, but it was not. Anyway. If it was, yeah, I think so. If the West really stood with Israel properly, a lot of things would have been better now. A lot of things. But you're like, And the worst thing is like the elites are the Jews. They're trying to those elites that hate the Jews the most try to pretend that the real elites are the Jews, and the stupid everyday people believe them. The problem is, okay, you believe them, all the Jews will be gone. The next day would not be pleasant. It wouldn't, because the Jews weren't the problem. If you take all your resources that you have to deal with a problem and you deal with the wrong problem, you just wasted your resources. That's what's happening. There is no like, you're a genius, we take care of the Jews. I tell you, okay, fine. Like in a world, like listen, like I told you, like if we could like make all the Jews disappear, and I want to see how it rolls, like if it was a possibility, and then you could like just have this experiment. Sure, I want to see how those assholes get fucked because of their wrong understanding of reality. But I also understand how they got to this false perception of reality. And by the way, you know how those cults, like, what's beautiful about those elites, and which is why I made the videos about eugenics? They want you dead. They all want, like, that's the thing, is like those, I'm sorry for saying it so bluntly, really, but like they have this whole thing with the global warming, right? So humans are the worst thing ever. And they have, the social, like in communism, like getting rid of like the death of populations are part of the plan. Same with Nazism. And like they all think that they want this thing is like we only, and that the masses are like a stupid blob, that the best thing is that for them to disappear. So, and it's the same with Islam, the reason Islam believes in peace. And like what happens in Islam, like everybody talks about that in Islam, there is this hadith that says you have to eliminate all the Jews. Do you know what happens after that? The world ends. Everybody dies. Like this is what they're striving for, complete annihilation of humanity. They're like, this is their dream. This is what they're going towards. This is what Islam is about. It's about complete extinction of humanity. Complete. This is like you get peace by that, like in peace, because there is no humans to have no peace. So yeah. So anyway, this is but I want to talk about, this is where we are, okay? So this is what we are at. We were told this beautiful lie, and we were all told this lie. And in Israel, we also had a situation where, we had this elites, like the inner fighting with let's say, more traditional Jews and less traditional Jews and blah, 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 because it's way more complex than that. And like, is Israel is gonna be more secular, or is it gonna be more Jewish? And it's like, and on that, right? On that, like, this is what a lot of the demonstrations against the reform of this is how it was sold to the public, okay? And so you have these two different, like, so you have this internal battle of like different perspectives inside of Israel. And the you see, this Harvard woke kind of population that think that they're better, and when in Israel also got their help from the outside, ended up having a lot of money that they used to sponsor huge protests, but not in their minds. It's not like B'Tselem. B'Tselem is working for the complete annihilation, destruction of Israel, and complete demonization of it, right? It's not like that. It's just that in their minds, they want to cooperate just because they think like, okay, if Israel is not their vision of Israel, right? Or and there are elements, like there are, you know what I'm talking about. It was the same with the BLM bullshit. or the BLM is way worse. Or I would say like the most similar is like the women's rally against Trump, like, you know, something that really doesn't have much to do with reality, like that, like this. That's the same, right? So it was like the women's rally just went crazy with a lot of foreign money, with a lot of like paying protests, and with a lot of people that thought that they are doing amazing, and if they support that then they're gonna be the ones that would be elected in the government, and they're gonna be the heroes and things like that. And you know, if you work with trying to bring down different governments, other governments, so you find these people who are more easily convinced that if they go just a little bit, you know, against their own country, nothing would happen, but they're gonna get their vision of country to exist. Not necessarily that they really wanted Israel to collapse. And this is why right now this is what's happening right now, is that those people that went in and effectively created a 2023 version of Israel that was so divided with all those, and they had like, you know, reserve, and a lot of those people were from the highest and the most prestigious department of the army, and they were like, okay, if this law passes of reforming the court, then we're not gonna serve in the army. And indeed, on October 7th, there were critical forces that didn't show up because they didn't understand what was really going on. They didn't show up. They didn't show up to go against the invaders. They didn't show up. And they tried to hide the fact that they didn't show up later on, but the Israelis already know. So what Israelis are doing now that they realized what was happening, right, with those people that were weakening the army. Also, there were when October 7th happened, I was sitting with people that were currently in the intelligence, and the same day, the night, there were rumors that there was some sort of outage in the intelligence systems, by the way, which and that was something that I heard back then, and then those rumors were denied, and quite recently they resurfaced saying yes, there was something. So I heard it like on October 7th that there are like those things, and like later it was denied, but now it's maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, and it's like you know, some outage. But there was also just the fact that people were like, oh, also I believe that some had this mindset, okay, if there is a little bit of an event, then the government, like people would be mad at the government for not doing their job, and then the government would have to swap. And they were, you know, they went so crazy with their hubris that they thought that that's conspiracy. That's I just, like, you know, from human behavior, right? Like I said on the Trump assassination attempt, all you had to do is just not do your job properly, right? So all those people that wanted the government swap had to do is not to do their job properly. That's it. Except that ended up being a very bad decision, because that didn't end up being like a small indecent and that would just change the government. No, that ended up being something that was just they brought their own rope, basically. And then there was this other thing, like, okay, so they screwed up, and then there was the other rope that they tried to hang to, is that, okay, so the way Israel is conducting itself, then America, which has Biden and Kamala, the brain dead zombie and the communist leading it, would not, you know, without the American support and stuff, then we wouldn't be able to do anything. So we better like not do much and things like that. And that the new theory was like, okay, if we go too hard against what Biden is demanding of Israel, then Israel is doomed. So that was the other assumption, that like after that it was like, okay, we have to do things, but we cannot go too hard against what the Americans are saying, because we will get abandoned and screwed, and Israel will get doomed. And this is also something that the media ran up with, right? So it's like, okay, we're gonna be like, yes, this war is important, but like if we go too hard against the Americans, then Israel is doomed, and we're gonna be alone, and blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. Affect that in stupid, because like you have to be crazy to think that if it was an option, that America wouldn't have done it like decades ago. They would have, because they really prayed for Israel to get annihilated in 1948, but it didn't end up happening. But like I say like it's a complete misunderstanding of the fact that us getting annihilated is a very bad plan for the West. Very bad plan. Very bad idea. So even if we go hard against what they want, they still cannot like really back off helping us. Not if they want to. I mean, the thing is that Biden is already kind of dead, so I guess the future doesn't matter. It doesn't look like he cared about his children too much, or that he cared about his daughter at all. Like he cared for her, but completely in the wrong way. So I guess the next generations, Kamala, like they don't think about the next generations. I'm sure of it. It's like, so the only question is like, is it going to happen before or after they die? If it's something that, if the world is going to get doomed and everybody's going to die, if it happens after they die and they can live comfortably until then it's fine. If there is a chance that it would happen before they die, then let's not make that happen. Which is a very bad strategy, like a very bad thing when Biden was in charge. I mean, he's still supposed to be in charge, but it's a very bad like strategy, because obviously like it's probably gonna be gone anyway before the world goes completely kaput, because he doesn't have much, I think. I mean, he's branded anyway, so I guess he already died, so just like it doesn't really matter for him. But yeah. So yeah, so so let's talk about how we get out of the situation, because I don't know if there is anyone here from the UK or other places, but what Israelis have started doing is that in Israel, the thing is that the government is not in a bad shape like it is in the UK, for example. Let's be honest. But Israelis started putting like they started following the judges, right? So they started going against so they were like, what, the judges have so much authority and they're being political, so they're politicians, right? And politicians would have to answer the public. So they started going making sure that the judges are gonna be accountable for their actions and decisions. And they are going against the relevant, Israel is going against the relevant people in the security system. And they went against the organization called Achim Laneshek, which is an organization that supposedly supports IDF, but in reality they are a chaotic element that was hurting the IDF. So Israeli started going against them, right? Going against all those politicians and all those people who were calling and supporting the revolt against the government. We're like, we cannot just go against the government, because the government cannot be responsible for everything. If the jury has more power than the government, and when the government tries to take care of that, then there are elements in the society that go completely insane. So who is responsible? The elements in the society that went insane. So the jury system. Now let's hold them accountable. Now let's see what happens if the Israeli public comes to them, they're coming to them and asking them, hey, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And things are getting better. So that's one thing we can do. Thank you, Jax. Just because. Love. So it's the same thing. It's like, okay, you have the situations with the immigrants that are not getting taken, the jury system doesn't jail them. Then go and check who the judges are and who bails them on the, and publish those things. This is what the media is for. Start saying, hey, you are going against the public, then you're being a politician, then you're a public figure. Then the people have the right to go and demonstrate against you. I want to see. Bill Sykes. I'm in UK. The feeling is hopeless. We just got a government that no one wanted. Starmer is a Marxist, and he's just shoved through loads of repressive law aimed only at any dissidents. Yeah, the situation in the UK is like there. This is why I made this video some time ago about the UK, and I said like you have to get your police forces back. Like boots on the ground kind of situation, because I feel like this is the easiest thing to take over. This like when you're the majority, because the other option, like the other thing is like you'd have to start having private security companies, which is also a solution. Like start demanding, like if you feel like that churches are at risk and like they're like start demanding that schools would have security systems, and then like but make sure that you are the ones that like that the not the same people that made you be in the situation that you are in are taking charge of that, but those people who are trying to keep Britain actually safe, that those are the ones that are building those security forces, for example. Like, did I freeze? Am I back? I'm good. Am I good? Am I here? Can you see me? All right. Yeah. Mama. Yeah, so you guys like if you think the police is not gonna hire you, you and the people like you can lift like in a productive way, use those like stabbing occurrences and stuff. Like if you want to like use it in a productive way, just try convincing that okay, we need like a security system, right? Security system, and make sure the security system is your people, like you build it. Like this is like getting organized. The other side is organized. The other side is organized. So that's how you get out of it. Ideally like taking back the police or taking back the police would have been more ideal, but if it's like you think it's too much, like it's been taken over, so you have to start demanding like alternative solutions. So there are ways, but like that you have to get organized, you have to have boots on the ground, you have to be like okay, also like things like night watch, right? Make sure that there are nothing that is happening at nighttime. Just like just do whatever you can, not necessarily like, and then from there is more that you can do, like more reporting, alternative news source, real like crime report. Hey guys, can you see me, hear me? Sorry. You guys here? Yay, I'm back. I actually kind of finished everything I wanted to say. You guys have any comments? It's amazing. People waited. Thank you. The amazing part is that because my computer ran out of battery, is that I even went on the app, like on YouTube, on both on my iPad, on my phone, but I couldn't even end the live stream because it wouldn't appear. So, yeah. Do you guys have any questions? Anything you want me to talk about? Yeah, I had a funny facial expression when the screen froze. Good to know. All right. Do I? Carlos, do you answer X messages? Only if there's something that I think, well, thank you for the super chat. I answer if they're relevant. If it's something that you can search on Google, but for some reason you think, for example, that I need to answer that, then no. I'm not a Google engine, just to make that clear. Like, sometimes people like, just saying. But thank you for your support. I do answer X, like, depends. Yeah. You said you'll talk about Bangladesh. I talked about Bangladesh in the beginning. And I'm not an expert on what's going on in Bangladesh, so there is a limit to how much I can say confidently. I'm just curious, like, I kind of want to find something from this area to talk to, because I have questions like, okay, they're targeting Hindus, the Muslims in Bangladesh are targeting Hindus, so who should be protecting them? Is it like India? Do you think India should intervene? What's the plan there? Like obviously the world should say something, like, but the world is gonna suck. So I kind of want to hear from. I'm gonna search for someone. Maybe I'll try to find someone who'll be able to answer questions on India. All right. Think that's it. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry, guys. Have a good night, everybody.